Alright guys, so the weather has taken a complete 180, and what I thought was going to be like the end of March before we start fishing probably turned into the end of February. So obviously we're all pretty excited about that. But what that means, and what it means every single year that the ice comes off that early, is that we'll have a good month and a half to 2 months of cold water. And when I say cold water, I mean we're talking probably 60 days of fishing in sub 50-degree water temps, which obviously causes a lot of issues. A lot of guys struggle to catch fish in that water temp, and I was one of them for a really long time. And I mean, obviously I still have bad days, everybody does. But the number one tool in our area, and I think most guys who have figured it out would agree, this time of year, this stretch that we have coming up, is 100% the blade bait. I mean, it's everybody knows what it is at least, but some people aren't super comfortable throwing it, and that was me not long ago. And to me, the keys that really made it a lot easier was that I simplified it a lot. I learned that I was doing way too much, and I really dialed in the hardware that I use on these baits. So I'm going to try to touch on those points. Like when I posted Monday night, I'm sorry, when I posted Monday night that I was going to do this video, a couple people commented what they wanted to see. I mean, it was funny because Greg Zeller is a friend of mine. He posted, all these like specific tips and things that he wanted me to touch on. And in my head, I'm thinking like, maybe I don't know as much as I thought I knew, because to me, I make blade bait fishing so simple. I really use maybe 4 different styles of blade baits, and sure, that probably hurts me at times, but that's kind of been the reason why I've gotten better at it. So I'm going to talk to you guys first about my number one, my favorite blade bait, which is just a simple silver. This is actually a 3/8 with a big body, which is my favorite. And this bait is like the one I start with on pretty much every body of water. So I mean, it will be whenever I make it out, whether that be this weekend, next week, whatever. My first cast this year from a boat will be with that Silver Buddy. And this is, usually I throw it like a 7-2 medium heavy. I don't really like to go to a straight medium. I just did that for years and I lost more fish. And 12-pound fluorocarbon. Because, I mean, when you hook a fish in 40-degree water, it's not giving you too much trouble. So I just go with 12-pound. With this bait, it comes with straight trash hardware. The hooks that come on this are no better than the hooks you clip on your hat. So please, if you get anything from this video, swap out your hardware on these. Take like a number 4 or number 3 split ring, put it on there, and I'll actually show you my favorite hook to put on these is the Megabass. I mean, it's Japanese, but it's like the Katsuge hook. It actually has that out barb. And those 2 hooks, what's key on a buddy is that they don't come together and hook up. I don't know how well you can see that, but these don't. They're the perfect length where they'll come together, but they won't actually cross each other. So you get plenty of shank for hooking those fish. The hooks are plenty sharp, and they're light wire enough to poke through those cold mouths. So that's real. I mean, that's the simple beginning. You cannot compete in a tournament with a blade bait with stock hardware, unless you're buying from a custom guy, that makes them with good hooks. That's totally different. But then going on from there, there are a couple variations of the one I throw, but we'll stick with this one for a little bit. So basically, fishing the bait is another thing that a lot of people will definitely do wrong. And I'll go ahead and say wrong, even though that's kind of a strong statement, because all the time in these wintertime tournaments, you'll see guys out there, and I mean, everybody's throwing a blade bait. Like, for example, when you fish a tournament on Dukes in November, I mean, everybody's throwing one, and you see guys take their rod, drop it down to the water, reel down their slack, and just woo all the way up. I mean, like, lift the bait 5-6 feet at a time, just yo-yo and yo-yo and yo-yo. And that is the worst possible thing you can do for those fish. I mean, that's what I did for a long time, was way overworked. And I've literally learned that the best way to fish one of these baits is acting like you're hopping a jig or a tube on the bottom. Get your slack down, always keep your rod more of a straight toward your bait, and just give it a little raise, like a foot to a foot and a half. You want to feel that bait kick a couple times and then drop it. Kick a couple times, drop it. And you want to let it sit on the bottom, for a couple seconds in the beginning, just do a little small raise. And from there, you can kind of feel it out. It's just like a jerkbait. The length of paws on the bottom can be big. I've caught fish before in 36-degree water when you had to leave the bait sit on the bottom for 10 to 15 seconds, which is tough. They'll actually swim down and pick it up off the bottom too, which is something pretty cool. So that will handle most situations. The silver is definitely better when it's sunny, in my opinion, especially in clear water. It just shows up better when the sun hits it. It gives you that flash, and it definitely can draw more strikes because it actually has a little bit of flash. But when you move on to, let's say, you're trying to, the bite is tough, the next progression that I'll make is into a little bit smaller blade bait. So for example, this is a 1/4 ounce silver, and I throw that on 12-pound test also. Very similar setup. I'll usually go to a medium action for that. But I mean, basically, without going too in depth, you can see that's a lot smaller, and I'll use that in shallower water and also when the bite is super tough. It just doesn't have that same wobble. I mean, you're not going to feel it the same for sure. But when silver doesn't work, and this is kind of letting the cat out of a bag on a little bit of a deal, but one of the best colors around here, it was reported last year, like the Michiana Outdoor site after the Polar Bear Open on Dukes Bridge, but a perch colored blade bait or a bluegill colored blade bait is very much a staple in the area. This is a smaller one. This is my personal favorite when that bite is on. So I like throwing this one a lot in off-colored water, and also if it's cloudy. For example, the tournament that I fished with Casey last year on Waldron, late in the year, we caught most of our fish on that blade bait, and it was just a tougher bite. The water was a little bit more off-colored than normal, a little bit of a brown stain to it. We caught a lot of our key smallmouths on that bait. So that's, gold is another one. A lot of guys throw gold. I have some gold baits that I use as well, certain lakes especially on that. And then to get into the kind of off the wall deal with the blade bait. Again, I'm not going to be crazy in this video because I'm no scientist when it comes to blade bait fishing, but I mean, these are the basics, the fishing it, the when to fish it. But this is kind of the, nobody really thinks of this as a blade bait, and it's not. That's a 3/4 ounce red eye shad by Strike King. But this bait can be fished a lot like a blade bait, sometimes with a little bit more of a pickup to it. But the difference in this bait is it rattles. So that's one thing. It looks a lot more realistic, and the fall on it is actually a lot more subtle. And also, it's a solid color bait, so it's completely solid. And that is most often something I'll use, first of all, when the water warms up a bit. I won't be throwing this much in 30 whatever degree water, usually only when it hits 45. And this is really good on a super cloudy day. So when that water gets real cloudy and you're fishing 15 to 20 feet, which a lot of times you are with a blade bait, those fish will struggle to find it when there's not much light down there. And that's when I like something with a rattle. So that's when I'll actually go to the big trap. And this is something, I mean, you definitely don't get the bites that you get on a normal blade bait. But fishing it the exact same way with those little the little hops, feeling a little bit of vibration, letting it go back down, can catch bigger fish and catching more fish, especially in grass or in deeper, darker water. So that's definitely something that's like the one piece I'll give you that's kind of off the wall. But considering how you fish it is the most important thing to me. The less you do with this bait, the more effective it's going to be, the more fish you're going to catch this spring. And so another question I remember was, what water temp do I throw the bait in? And I'll be dead honest with you, I will basically not put this bait down until the water hits 45. And that doesn't mean I'm done throwing it. That just means I won't pick anything else up until the water hits 45. This bait is like, if you have one bait this year to catch more fish on until the pre-spawn starts to happen, 100% a blade bait is it. And really, the blade bait is effective until the water gets to 60. And I mean, you can catch fish on it all year long. I know guys who have won tournaments and done well in July and August with it. But for me, I pretty much put it down when you get to like the 53, 54 mark. And there's going to be a lot of guys who balk at that. But I mean, it's just the case for me. It's a comfort thing. But yeah, I mean, I keep it super simple. So, I mean, as many tournaments as I fish, as many times as I've thrown this bait, I just don't get too wild with it. If I can't catch them on a big silver, a small silver, a big gold, or a solid color of some kind, I'm pretty much bailing on the bite. But I mean, in the spring, I just never bail on it. Even if I don't have a bite in 3 or 4 hours, I just never put it down. So, for those of you who are super, super well versed in blade bait fishing, you may not have learned a whole lot with this. But I know a lot of guys who aren't, and a lot of guys who know that tournaments are won on it and they just don't have much experience. So this is more for you. Again, let me know what I know. There's a couple questions that I remember that I didn't touch on. So if you really have a question about that, message me about it. and I'll get back to you. But definitely have this tied on as soon as your boat touches the water this year, and hopefully it's soon for all of us. So thanks again for watching, guys, and let me know what you think again, and I'll be doing another one of these next week.